fascinating world of NAD and its crucial role in cellular energy production. Did you know that NAD levels naturally decline as we age? Well, I didn't, but now I do, and I'm excited to share it with you. It impacts our energy levels and overall well-being. If you've ever wondered how you can combat fatigue, support healthy aging to feel more energized and vibrant, well, NAD is a secret weapon you need to know about. I've been using it for a few months now, and I am obsessed. I'm thrilled to welcome Dr. Aimee, who is a fertility doctor well known as the Egg Whisperer and star of the #1 fertility podcast, The Egg Whisperer Show. Dr. Aimee is a partner of Tru Niagen and not just an innovator. She is a passionate advocate for helping people unlock their full potential by understanding how our bodies function at the cellular level. With her expertise in health science and decades of research, she's here to share the groundbreaking benefits of NAD. It's a molecule that's truly a game changer for everyday wellness, especially in midlife. Dr. Aimee will break down how my go-to Tru Niagen boosts your NAD levels, helping to rejuvenate your cells and optimize your wellness from the inside out. So grab a cup of tea, get comfy, and get ready to learn why NAD is a must-have for your midlife health toolbox and why Dr. Aimee's insights might just change the way you approach wellness. Let's dive in.
Supporting healthy eggs. An egg is basically the starting point of every baby. NAD is really important for my patients.
At what age does our NAD start to decline?
So I recommend it to women in their 30s, and even people who are in their 70s can benefit from NAD.
How do your NAD levels fluctuate? What can affect them?
How you eat, the amount of stress, and the amount of exercise that you have can absolutely impact your NAD levels. So there are ways to naturally boost NAD.
If you love diving into the latest wellness secrets on the podcast, then you're going to want to join my exclusive weekly newsletter. Get insider wellness tips you won't hear anywhere else. Be the first to know about my upcoming fasting workshops because, let's be real, fasting is the secret weapon for surviving perimenopause. Access my weekly essentials, tools, and biohacks to help you thrive in midlife. I promise to make it worth your while, straight to the point, no fluff, just powerful tips to help you feel your best every single week. Don't miss out. Sign up now at thewelldrop.com. Let's take your wellness to the next level together. Welcome to the show, Dr. Aimee. I'm so excited to have you with us today and share your wellness wisdom with us and our listeners. NAD has been getting a lot of attention. I don't even know how to say the proper breakdown. What is NAD actually? What is the name of NAD?
No, it is a mouthful. It's nicotinamide, adenine, dinucleotide. So if you have to try and say that like 5 times, and it's still really hard to say.
Okay, I'm just going to leave it at NAD. So for those, I mean, it's relatively new to me also. I've only heard about it in the last couple of years. I feel like it's getting a lot of attention. For someone out there who maybe never even heard of NAD or they're starting to hear about it, can you explain why NAD is important for our overall health?
Yeah, I mean, it supports our cells. And as we get older, NAD goes down. And as NAD goes down, that means our brain might not function as well. Other cells in our body, like our muscles, might not work as well, our heart. And for me, and what I do as a doctor, I'm all about the ovaries and the uterus. So NAD levels go down in a woman as she ages. So for supporting healthy eggs, an egg is basically the starting point of every baby. NAD is really important for my patients. And it's relatively new for a lot of people just because people are hearing more and more about it. But I've actually been using it in my practice for almost 7 years, and I've been on it myself as a way to promote healthy aging and to also maybe even delay my menopause. So I'm almost 49 years old, and I trick my husband every time I ovulate to see if I can get pregnant.
You're really testing your capacity.
I am. And yeah, so I find that this is really helpful for my IVF patients, for my egg freezing patients, for my pregnant patients. So even people who aren't struggling to conceive, NAD might potentially, there is some evidence that it might help prevent birth defects. Postpartum, it can help with postpartum depression. It can
Wow.
help with lactation. So I have patients reach out to me after they deliver their babies and say, Aimee, I'm really having a really hard time with my mood. I'm having a hard time with lactation. And I say, pick up your NAD again and start taking it because it can help with, it sounds like it can solve every problem. You're bickering with your husband, just give him some NAD.
Just
Tell him
take
just
some Eddie.
go to your blue bottle and get in a better mood and then come back and start talking
I
to
mean,
me.
that's pretty fascinating. At what age does our NAD start to decline? Because I think
Usually
most of
in
us
our
were never told about this.
Yeah, usually in our 30s. So I recommend it to women in their 30s, and even people who are in their 70s can benefit from NAD. So my in-laws take it. So they always they're like, Amy, why are you so happy? And I'm like, well, I'm married to your son. He's so lovely. Thank you for him. But also, I think NAD also helps, balance my mood. When I'm feeling a little bit tired, I just know that if I take my NAD, I'm just going to feel a lot better. And it also helps with my sleep quality too.
It's funny that you talk about your sleep. I've done a test. I've been taking it now for at least over 6 months, and
Yeah.
I can say the biggest change I've noticed is I'm a morning person in general, but I would need my alarm clock to wake me up, especially waking up the kids for school, and I have been waking up at least 30 minutes to almost an hour before my alarm clock has gone off, and sometimes you can take a supplement and you say, "Oh, I don't know if it's doing anything. I can't really tell." Because listen, we're all probably taking a lot of different things and there's a lot out there. But that is clear as day thanks to NAD. I mean, I can't even get over that I am waking up at 5 and 6 in the morning. I usually wake up by 6:20. So and my husband also, I have an interesting story for him. He was on the verge of getting an MRI on his knee. He was saying, "My knee's bothering me." And I had just started taking NAD. So I said, "You know what? Why don't you take this with me? Let's just do an experiment together." And within, I don't even want to say 2 days, but I think it was only 2 days, his knee stopped hurting and he's been fine ever
Yeah.
since.
I mean, I call it the jump out of bed pill. When I first started taking it, I was like, "Holy smokes, why am I jumping out of bed?"
Yeah, it really is, and I think especially
Yeah.
for we focus a lot on women in midlife. I think especially in midlife, there are so many changes going on with us hormonally that if that is just, like, something to have in your pocket to, like, give you that energy to jump out of bed, I
Mhm.
mean, and not have to, like, take something like, you don't even have to reach for, like, coffee immediately or anything. You were just
Right.
alert and awake, and it's kinda like the clouds just move away. Is that what
Mhm.
NAD does? What is it actually doing from, like, a cognitive standpoint?
So as far as the brain, it's the hungriest organ in your body and only 2% of your body weight. And its main function is to process and transmit information, which consumes about a full 20% of your body's energy every day. And this energy comes from mitochondria, which converts food into energy in the cells. And NAD supports the mitochondria. So if you're supporting the NAD, the supporting the mitochondria, you're therefore thereby supporting your brain health.
I can't even believe that it supports also our ovaries and you were saying our eggs. I mean, especially in relation to midlife, I guess, as our ovaries are sort of our eggs are on a decline.
Yeah.
How is that supporting it on that level? Is this like trying to keep it more bountiful or it's just like slowing down how
Yeah.
fast it's declining? Is it working on a hormonal level too at all?
It's more at a cellular energy level. So it's the mitochondria in our cells that are responsible for a healthy fertilization in our eggs, and same with sperm. So if the mitochondria aren't healthy, when an egg is fertilized by sperm, an embryo will not be genetically viable or normal. And so that's where I had my first aha moment about NAD because I had a patient who was in her 40s when she did IVF with me. She had already done several cycles that didn't work. She took NAD. I had no idea she was taking it, and her cycle was amazing. She had several embryos that passed genetic screening, which really should not happen for a woman in her 40s, and it
Yeah.
did. And it was the NAD that she took, and she did some research. She went to PubMed and found a mouse study showing that NAD that was repleted in mice, those mice had higher rates of fertility. So she started taking it. And it was because of that where I had this big aha moment. I said, everyone needs to take it who's doing IVF, including egg freezing patients.
I think for many of us out there, we hear about NAD precursors like NR, which I know is a key ingredient in True Niagen. Can you explain how What is the difference between taking, NAD most times, and correct me if I'm wrong, that would be more through injections, and then otherwise, if you're taking in sort of a pill form or a powder form, that would be more of a precursor of NAD?
Right. Yeah, so NAD itself is a really large molecule and it can't pass through cell membranes and first has to be broken down into its constituents. So, studies suggest that NAD outside of the cell may lead to an acute inflammatory response, which is why when patients have NAD IV and injection, you can have uncomfortable side effects.
Right.
So, no one wants to be like feeling really jittery and feeling like your heart's going to jump out of your chest,
Yeah, it
when
sounds
you're trying to do
terrible.
something. It's
I think
terrible.
that's why I never tried it, because I was like,
Yeah.
No, I'm okay."
Yeah, I mean, I had a friend once, she called 911. She was at some wellness center at the Four Seasons at some fancy resort, and she did NADIV, and she actually literally called 911 because she thought she was having a heart attack, but she was getting NADIV. So that's why I say forget about all the side effects. Try NR, and NR is the most efficient and effective way to elevate NAD because of this precursor, which is a unique form. And unlike NAD molecule itself or any of the other precursors like NMN, NR is the most efficient way to elevate NAD in our cells because it crosses the cell wall directly and requires fewer steps to convert into NAD. So it goes from like NMN to NR to NAD. So skip the NMN and
Got
just
it,
take
okay.
the NR.
Yeah, because that was gonna be my question, like, which one should we be taking first? Is it NMN, NRs? But you just answered that question,
Right.
that it should be NR over
Right.
NMN, because, I
Yeah.
mean.
And NMN hasn't, there's something about the molecule which prevents it from entering the cell directly. And a lot of people don't know this, but it was actually banned for use in dietary supplements by the FDA in 2020. And most of the NMN products out there are low quality. They don't meet label claims. And there are a lot of international regulatory bodies calling NMN supplements into question. So that's why I feel like the safest, most reliable, most studied way of increasing NAD in your cells is through NR.
And I love that you talk about that, about things not being safe, because most people don't think. I always say, have certain standards for the quality of the supplements that you're willing to put in your body. I think a lot of times they'll say, okay, this person told me to do it, this person, like, even if I'm suggesting it, like, double check me. I mean, I have my certain core values that are very high standards, but even so, like, still double check anyone that you are using for advice, because there is so much stuff out there that either is not bioavailable, it's not going to be absorbed. It actually may have some, dangerous ingredients in it that can exacerbate whatever you're trying to resolve. And that's sort of what led me to True Niagen. Can you explain, like, what sets their product apart from others? Because I always love going to the source and kind of the who's like the master in their product.
Right. I mean, I think a lot has to do with Chromadex, and they are a pioneer in NAD research with a focus on healthy aging. And they've spent decades advancing our understanding of NAD. And they have an external research program with independent scientists from top institutions all over the world. And they've published over 35 peer-reviewed clinical studies on Chromadex's flagship ingredient, which is Niagen, which is patented nicotinamide riboside. So that's why, if there's a product that I'm going to recommend, it's their version of NR.
And so theirs is patented, and that is what is in the True Niagen.
That's correct.
And now, is that in other sort of NAD or precursor products as well, or are they the primary one?
Yeah, I mean, I believe they do because they have the patent. Other companies license their version of NR for their products, but I'm not sure exactly which brands do.
Are there any sort of lifestyle factors, that like diet, exercise, stress, that can impact your NAD levels? How do your
Yeah.
NAD levels fluctuate? What can affect them?
Yeah, I mean, I think how you eat, the amount of stress, and the amount of exercise that you have can absolutely impact your NAD levels. So there are ways to naturally boost NAD. So eat foods with NAD precursors, like foods that are rich in B vitamins, like salmon, eggs, liver. Exercising regularly is really important. I tell my patients to be able to run a 10-minute mile effortlessly to be in that great of shape because that's the kind of shape you want to be in before a pregnancy. If you can't just put your sneakers on and start running a 10-minute mile, you know, And if you feel like you're going to die at the end of that 10-minute mile, imagine how you're going to feel at the end of pregnancy. You're in no shape to get pregnant if you can't do that. So strength training, getting your steps in, and then following an anti-inflammatory diet. So that can reduce chronic inflammation by eating a diet that's low in refined sugars and high in grains and in healthy fats, leafy greens, and colorful fruits. And I am a huge fan of being alcohol free. So I've been alcohol free for almost a year now, and I will never go back.
Oh,
I just tell people I'm
amazing.
allergic to alcohol and I'm no fun. My friends do not want to hang out with me. I'm now like their Mormon friend, but I'm great because when I go out, I can drive everybody. But
You're the designated driver. There's always
I am
good to have
definitely
that.
the designated driver. Yeah, but avoid binge drinking. That's really important. As binge drinking can significantly reduce NAD levels and can lead to liver injury. So those are my tips for ways of boosting NAD naturally.
I like that you do you find that as we age, especially you said you're in your late 40s, that obviously it really happens. I realize from our liver enzymes, we stop producing them as much, that our tolerance for alcohol is not the same, for better, for worse. Or is it because our
Mm.
body's just pounded with so much environmentally that it's sort of that's just the last thing that we need on top of it?
I think we just metabolize it differently. And I think that, we need to be even more clear-minded as we're getting older to complete the same number of tasks that we were able to in our younger years. So adding alcohol to the mix, being tired the next day, feeling kind of out of it and foggy, like I don't have room for that in my busy schedule where I'm doing 10 procedures a day, seeing 30 patients.
Yeah.
I have over 9,000 patient contacts a year. So I need to be very clear-minded. I need to remember who people are, why they're seeing me, and give them the very best care. And alcohol is just not going to help me do that.
Yeah. I agree. I go in and out. I actually love cocktails.
Yeah.
Um, they are like my happiness, but
Yeah.
my attachment to them has really been like waning in the last couple years. Like I
Yeah.
always will do a dry January, dry September. Like I don't need it. Not that I ever needed it, but I definitely
Yeah.
don't feel that connection to it that I used to, which I think is so interesting because I
Yeah.
agree.
I
Like
mean,
we have to like fight for that energy and hold on to
right.
whatever we can grasp at, and it's just not worth it at the end of the day.
Right. Well, I'm a huge fan of alcohol-free drinks like Aplos, Recess, like Zero Proof. I always bring them to parties with me and everyone takes them from me. They're like, "These are amazing."
Yeah,
I'm like, "Give them back." But I
it's a
bring them so
movement.
people know that I'm not gonna be a huge bore, and I will be drinking something sparkly, but not
Yeah, you
something
can
that's
still
gonna
be
make me
fun. I think
feel
you don't
short.
need to drink to
Totally.
be fun. Like, I
Totally.
think it's funny, the younger generation is shifting that narrative, and I think it's amazing.
Absolutely.
Sober curious, I love it. It's a great
Yeah.
movement. In terms of NAD's long-term benefits for supplementation, is this something that you can take every day? Is it something that you should
Uh-huh.
cycle? What is sort of the cadence of it that we should be
Yeah.
thinking about?
I mean, I think you can take it every day. We already talked about how it can help with brain health. It can help with immune health. I think it might even help with some chronic medical problems that we're learning more about. For example, there's some studies looking at neurological and cardiovascular health, peripheral artery disease, ataxia telangiectasia, for example, is another disease that it's been studied in. So I think there are a lot of benefits. I'm particularly excited about long-term problems for memory, like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. So there will be more research coming forth in the near future, and I'm very excited about those studies because I'd love to, have great memory into my 90s. And even I plan on working. People are like, "When are you going to retire?" I'm like, "If I'm not showing up at work, I'm dead." That's basically how it's going to be.
Yeah.
So, I'm very excited about, being on this long term and then hopefully being able to work even longer than I was expected to have had I not been on it.
And you mentioned that your parents are taking it too. What would you say is the earliest age somebody should start it? And is it go on? Is there any like age that maybe, you should stay away or just
No, not necessarily. I mean, I would say starting in your 30s is a good time to start it. There
okay.
are other anti-aging supplements, like, for example, rapamycin. There's a lot of buzz around that. I don't think that's something that people should start in their 30s, maybe, in your mid 40s. But I think True Niagen is something, especially for women who are thinking about getting pregnant or preserving their fertility, I think it's a good thing to start in their 30s. And I predict women who start in their early 30s potentially could have a higher chance of having healthier babies even later in life. I had someone reach out to me, 46 years old, who had been trying for a really long time, and she had been taking True Niagen, and she swears that it was the True Niagen that helped her have her healthy baby.
That's
And the oldest
amazing.
Yeah, and the oldest patient that I've had get pregnant from True Niagen was almost 49. And
Wow.
unfortunately, was not a healthy pregnancy, but I'm like, I don't know that that could have even happened, that she could even have had an egg that could have been healthy enough to even get fertilized had it not been for taking that.
Wow, I love that. I mean, that sounds like it's pretty much ideal for most candidates. Is there anybody who should be cautious about taking or avoiding?
Yeah, so you know how we talked about, like, the jumping out of bed pill? Some people have at baseline some anxiety, and
Mhm.
so it can actually unmask anxiety in women who are super anxious, so I always recommend being careful with the dose. So I tell patients mine to start off at 300 milligrams and then slowly go up to 1,000, even 2,000, but for some patients, 300 might be too much, so they can start off at 150. They can use the powder sticks, and they can actually cut that dose down and just put a little bit in their water every day and see how they do, then slowly go up. So I always tell people, talk to your own personal physician about what you're taking, what your goals are, and then see if it's something that's right for you. Because certainly, what I'm saying here, I don't want to replace medical advice that you're getting from your personal physician, but I don't really think there's anyone that should not consider NAD. You just have to be careful about the side effects.
Yeah, I like actually how you suggested starting slow. I
Mhm.
that is how I started. I started at the 300 milligrams.
Yeah.
I believe it's probably 2 pills, so I even started with just 1 pill, and
Mhm.
then I went up to 2 pills, and then I went to the 1,000 milligrams. Um, and I agree, you just always I would say, like, you have your own intuition, so, like, tap
Mhm.
into that. If it says it's fine, like, you can move up. If not, like,
Yeah.
listen to yourself and just stay where you're at. Like, even if a company is offering, because they have the 300 and the 1,000 milligrams, even if they have the 1,000, but 300 is enough for you, like, that's fine.
Yeah,
Like,
and
it
you can
doesn't
also
mean that that's,
confirm.
like, you're not getting the maximum benefits. Would you agree with that?
I totally would. I mean, there's also the 300 and then the 1,000 milligram bottle. The pills are 500 milligrams. So you can always do like a 300 and a 500 and not go up to 1,000 as
Right.
well, if that's enough for you and you feel really good on that dose.
You can play around with it.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think the future is for NAD research, and any exciting developments that we can expect to see in the field of healthy aging in the coming years?
Absolutely. So I think Niagen IV is really exciting. And so I actually received an IV infusion myself, and it felt amazing. My sleep was even better. I hope that I'm going to book another one here soon. They'll actually come to my office, or you can go to an infusion center and get Niagen IV. So it's the first of its kind pharmaceutical grade Niagen, which is the nicotinamide riboside chloride, and it came out in 2024.
Oh,
And
wow.
so the goal is to make the supplementation more accessible to all. So I see a lot of potential for both combining True Niagen and Niagen IV when it comes to reproductive health and menopause research. So, given the age that I'm at, I'm very excited about the menopause research side of things. But I think that's one of the most exciting breakthroughs that I've seen in a long time when it comes to NAD research.
And so when you're getting that IV, there's not the same side effects that you're having if you're doing the NAD IVs or the NAD
Yeah,
shot?
you don't have that same, like, your heart's jumping out of your chest feeling,
How
that
come?
jitteriness. So you have to look at your body size and just titrate the dose, or not the dose, but well, the dose, but also the time that the infusion will take for that person. Um, so, um, so every patient's gonna be a little bit different, but I always would say, like, start with the lowest dose and see how you do before you go up to a higher dose for any type of IV infusion.
Is there any connection with timing, sort of this new IV invention that they have with your cycle? Like, is there a certain time of a cycle that's a better time to get that than others that are
I mean, not
maybe
really.
not?
I mean, I get really cranky. I'll use the word snarky. Snarky just sounds like, "Oh, you're kinda cute and just kinda crabby," so I like snarky. I mean, I get really snarky right after I ovulate. So if I were to pick a time, that's when I would do it because
Mm,
I'd want kinda like a mood booster, so
yeah.
I'm just not real snarky. So that's because I feel pretty euphoric, like, once my period starts, I feel like, the clouds have opened up and the angels are singing. And then once my period's over, I still feel really good. Man, once that ovulation hits and that progesterone goes up, I'm like crankier than ever.
Yeah, why does the
So
progesterone do that? Why, when
it,
that goes up, does it?
it just affects our mood. I mean, that's where, that's why we call it premenstrual disorder. It has a lot to do with progesterone. And then the rise and the crash of what happens if, let's say, an ovulation it does not turn into a pregnancy and your progesterone levels are maintained, that drop in progesterone can make you feel pretty crabby.
Oh, that's what it is. So then that's
Yeah.
why some people are do progesterone cream probably to
Yep.
kind of
To
ease
balance
that.
out their hormones there.
That completely makes sense. Well, I mean, I know you've had amazing benefits. I've had amazing benefits off of True Niagen. I think it's such a simple thing to take. And really, I can't even get over it. It almost does sound too good to be true, like all the different benefits that NAD has. What is one drop of wellness wisdom you like to leave our listeners with today as we close
Yeah.
out?
Totally. So every year I have a new one, and this one, it's always to make people laugh and smile, and that's to do something that makes you vibrate every day. Whether it's to listen to loud music or vibrate in a way that you don't really need to tell me, and it could be really private, but just do something that makes your soul vibrate. Talk to an old friend, watch a comedy, go to a concert. For me, it's electronic dance music. Electronic dance music is a huge part of my life. Diplo doesn't know it, but he's my boyfriend. We're madly in love. So, that's my bit of wellness wisdom.
I love that. I will take that. I agree. I mean, I have dance parties with my daughter every day in the school
Yeah,
and after I pick her up from school, and it's like the highlight of my day. I think
yeah,
that
they're
that's
the best.
great. Thank you so much for being with us on the
Oh,
Well
you're
Drop. It was a
welcome.
pleasure, Dr. Amy.
Thank you, Amber. Thanks for having me. Likewise.